this is?
That looks like a car, but let's go find out.
What Senzo is new and Senzo is different. Senzo is an online community for classic car lovers who want to share their stories with the world. I started Senzo, I think 5-6 years ago, and I was thinking, if you talk about classic cars, almost anything related to classic cars is already available. Repair shops, automobilia, memorabilia, there are magazines, there are shows, anything is already there. When I looked on the web, what I missed was, what I personally like a lot, is stories about cars. I didn't see any of those. Sometimes there were stories about cars, but then the story was much more about the man who owned a car. So together with a group of people, we came up with the ideas to tell the story of a car from the perspective of the car.
Life is all about creating stories. Stories about adventure, discovery, and unraveling the secrets that lie ahead. My name is Iris, and this is my story.
With Senzo, we want to make the car human. And people, same as me, have emotions with their cars. And the combination of history and emotion makes great stories. And great stories last forever. Because if you look at, for instance, the Fiat 500 you see here in the back, I don't know anybody who doesn't have an emotion with a car like that. For me, classic cars are not typically for older grey men with too much money, but they are for anybody who loves aesthetics, who loves history, and who loves emotion. And we came up with the idea is to create the story of this car by first giving it a name. The English engineers who chose the color of his car gave it the name Iris Blue, your eyes. So we named the car Iris, and we started telling the story of this car based on the actual story that was shared with us by the previous American owner. He started sending me a dozen emails, and he explained in full detail the entire story of the car, which he owned for over 23 years, and used it to go to his work, and also used it to race, also used it to take his wife out, and that was in the 70s and the 80s. That's part of the history of Iris. So we think that with Senzo we have a unique platform for people who love classic cars. Not necessarily all owning classic cars, but loving the looks of it, loving the sight of it, loving the stories about it, and sharing these stories with each other. Some people like stories about the technology of classic cars, some people like stories about the history of classic cars, and some people like stories about what they have done with their classic cars. Road trips with their families, trips with their friends. And what I would encourage people is to share these stories with each other. Because sharing stories is part of life. Senzo can be found on all social media and online. We have a website, senzo.world, and we have on social media, you can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest. So on all social media, Senzo is available for you to join, share and like.